Okay, so something a bit new, a bit different for today's class. I've got an essay that I was sent by a C2 student. Basically, I'm just going to read the task and then I'm going to read their answer, and I'm not going to criticize anything. So you can, while you're watching me read the essay, you can think about things that you would change, about the structure, the vocabulary, see if there are any mistakes. But after I finish reading it, then I'm going to go back, read it again, and sort of underline things and edit a few things to show what I think needs to be changed. So let's have a look at the task. So here is the exercise as it appears in the book. It says writing prompt. So we have three things that we can look at here. So we can see there is a pie chart here on the left that says screen time among children aged 1 to 9 years. Watches no TV, 7.5%. Watches more than 1 hour per day is nearly 50%, 49.2%. Watches 1 hour or less per day, 43%. So that's a graph talking about how much television young children watch. Here's a quote from the US Congress. It says, all TV stations in the US must provide at least 3 hours of programming per week to educate and inform children. And then finally, we have a medical university study which says too much screen time is not good for kids. And then at the bottom of the page, there are two possible tasks. Task 1 is an article, and it says the government has announced plans to invest a lot of money to produce children's educational programming for TV and the internet. Write an article for a local news website explaining the impacts this will have on children and your opinion of I can't see the end of the sentence there. And your opinion of the matter of the subject, I imagine. Include at least one piece of information given above to support your response. So the three things that we just read, the three prompts, one of those needs to be used in the article. But we're going to focus on task 2, the essay, which is what I'm going to be correcting. So it says, let's see if we can read this one. There are hundreds of television shows and channels dedicated to children's programming. Kids can now watch TV 24 hours a day without ever turning on an adult show. Is all this TV good for children? How much television should kids be, I think it says, allowed to watch? With an essay addressing this topic. Write an essay addressing this topic and explain your opinion about it. Give specific, I assume it means, I assume what it's going to say, give specific examples to explain your viewpoints. Include at least one piece of information given above to support your arguments. To support your ideas. Okay, so we're going to read the answer, the sample answer that we have here. And as I said at the beginning, first of all, I'm just going to read through it and I'm not going to criticize it. Then I'm going to go back and show what I would change. So let's have a look at the sample answer here. So the title is, Could TV be a contemporary type of school? Many parents and scientists deplore TV and the time that children devote to it, as it is deemed to be a silly box. However, if the content of the programs is qualitative, then TV can be turned into a beneficial device, especially for children. If you still have any doubts by the end of reading this article, you will have revised. As the US Congress advocates, all TV stations in the US are obligated to provide at least 3 hours of programming per week to educate and inform children. This goal will be achieved if the available funds are invested in a beneficial way. For instance, broadcasting documentaries is conducive to broadening children's horizons from a very young age. Documentaries provide such vivid and lively details about animals or plants' life that none book could do so. In addition, programs about different cultures and natives' habits could be useful because they teach children to be unprejudiced and knowledgeable as they grow. Especially if these programs are accompanied by a simplistic oral presentation, TV will constitute an interactive encyclopedia. Moreover, bright pictures and images in cartoons develop a good imagination, which is very important for the further development of the child. That means that government's money should be used at this direction as well. Especially cartoons that promote heroes with special needs or unconventional appearance will engage children with the idea that everyone in this world must be accepted and loved. In this way, as it was mentioned in the introduction, TV will become a novel type of education and helpful for parents who do not have much time to spend with their kids. However, as far as parents are concerned, their supervision is really important. A medical university study has arrived to a conclusion that spending extensive hours in front of TV is harmful for children. It can lead up to both physical and psychological health problems, as kids are shielded from the outside world. In conclusion, governments should concern that children programs must be educative and diverting. If the above is achieved, I believe that the advantages of devoting a plausible amount of time to watching TV will outweigh any possible disadvantage. Okay, so let's go back and have a look at the text at the what I think is an essay, but in the first paragraph, the student describes it as an article, so there's a bit of confusion there. Anyway, I'm going to have a look at that now. I'm going to have a look at it, make the corrections, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give what I think would be the score, what this would get in an actual proficiency or C2 level exam. So let's go back and have a look. So could TV be a contemporary type of school? Okay, so I think this is a good title. I think this is the title of an essay, really, not an article. We're going to discuss the opinion of the writer. So it's a good start there, no problems with the title. Many parents and scientists deplore TV. Very good use of the word deplore, yes, initially, because yes, they deplore TV. That's a good way of saying that they dislike it, that they disapprove of it. But they deplore TV and the time that children devote to it. I don't think they deplore the time. I think they deplore the fact that children devote so much time to it. Technically speaking, they don't deplore the time, they deplore the fact that children spend so much time watching the TV. As it is deemed to be a silly box. Well, I think I have a problem here with how that sentence sounds, a little bit. Just because it's a very formal sentence saying that scientists and parents deplore TV and the fact that children spend so much time watching it. As it is deemed to be, I would say something a bit more formal. It is deemed to be a waste of time or an unproductive use of children's time. Perhaps if you wanted to use the expression a silly box, we could say that it is often dismissed by parents and scientists alike as merely a silly box. But I'm not going to correct that because technically I think it's correct, the sentence. So they're just some ideas. Okay. However, if the content of the program is qualitative, now there is a problem here. If the content of the program is qualitative, I think what you mean is if the content of the program is of good quality. The word qualitative just refers to quality. It doesn't say whether it's good or bad quality. So I think you need to specify, because I think what you mean there is that that something is of good quality. If the programs are of good quality, then TV can be turned into a beneficial device, especially for children. Yeah, that sounds a lot better now. This last sentence is a little bit of a problem. If you still have any doubts by the end of reading this article, you will have revised. First of all, a small problem here is that I think that this essay, this is an essay, it's not an article. So writing that it's an article there could confuse the examiner a little bit, because it sounds like you've answered task 2, but then you've said it's an article. So just a small thing that I wanted to mention there. Also, by the end of reading this article, I think you may have mixed two expressions there. By the end of this article, or after reading this article. But the big problem for me is you will have revised. Now, I think what you mean there is you will have changed your opinion, no? Yeah, so revise, we must remember revise is sort of like to analyze something again. You need to be very careful with the word revise, because a lot of the time English teachers assume that it's being misused. It's being confused with a false friend in the native language. Often, you know, in Spanish we have the word revisar, which looks a lot like revise, but actually is used in very different context. Obviously, revise, we use it to revise for an exam. So often, you know, when you're studying, we say revise. When you're studying for exam, you're looking over something again. It does have this formal meaning, which you've tried to use here, which means to look again at your opinion. But the important thing to know about revise in this context is that it needs an object. So if you have any doubts, if you still have any doubts, you will have revised them, I guess you could say. You will have revised them by the end of this article. Okay, the second paragraph starts pretty well. As the US Congress advocates, all TV stations in the US are obligated to provide at least 3 hours of programming per week to educate and inform children. Yeah, no problems there. This goal will be achieved if the available funds are invested in a beneficial way. Okay, yeah, again, I don't think there's any problem specifically there. It's very clear what you're trying to say, and I don't think there are any big problems. For instance, broadcasting documentaries is conducive to broadening children's horizons from a very young age. Okay, a small mistake there. It's not broadening, it's broadening. But otherwise, another very good sentence. Okay, documentaries provide such vivid and lively details about animals or plants' life. I think what we would say here is animal or plant life without the apostrophe S, as animal and plant there are an adjective. We're saying what kind of life, animal life or plant life. Such vivid and lively details about animal and plant life that no book, not none book, no book could do so, which no book could do, I think is how I would end this sentence. Okay, so this last clause of that sentence is very difficult to explain. So first of all, I think it should be which, not that, because it's come after a comma. This is extra information. This is a non-defining relative clause here at the end of the sentence. No, so it's we're saying which no book could do. No book, not none book. Remember, no is an article. And none is a pronoun. So you could say none of the books are any good, or how many books have you read? None. I have read none. But no books. That's an article that you put before a noun. Right. Now the very difficult thing to explain is do so. No book could do so. Now, if we wrote the sentence in a different way, we could say do so. We could say documentaries depict animal and plant life in a very lively way, or whatever you said. I can't remember now. I'm not looking at it. They depict it in a lively way, and no book could do so. Very good. Okay, because that do so refers to the action that we've just mentioned. But we have a pronoun here, which is which. No? Which no book, or you wrote that, but it should be which after a comma. Which no book could do. You do that thing. You do it. No? We already have our object. Do so is to refer, the so there is to refer to the action that has just been mentioned, right? But we have a pronoun, which already does that. Very complicated to explain. I'd need like a whole new video to explain this point, but I hope I made myself understood. In addition, programs about different cultures and natives' habits could be useful because they teach children to be unprejudiced and knowledgeable as they grow. One small problem I would look at here is the expression natives' habits. So again, if native here is an adjective, I would just say native. If you want to say the habits of the native people, I don't think I would say habits either. I think I'd say customs. Habits makes it sound like they're all smoking or drinking or something. But yes, I'd say either native customs or customs of native people, but otherwise no problems. Let's move on. Okay, especially if these programs are accompanied by a simplistic oral presentation, TV will constitute an interactive encyclopedia. Not very common to start a sentence with especially, but it's not incorrect. So, yeah, TV will constitute an interactive encyclopedia. I'm not sure it would be interactive exactly, but okay, I think I can let that slide. Moreover, bright pictures and images in cartoons develop a good imagination, which is very important for the further development of the child. Okay, so we've kind of moved on to cartoons here, which we hadn't mentioned beforehand. But okay, I don't think there's any technical problems with that sentence. Last sentence of this paragraph, though, there's a couple of problems. It says, that means that government's money should be used at this direction as well. So the idea is that government money should also be spent on cartoons as well as more typically educational programs such as documentaries. Okay, so again, government's money, the apostrophe S I think is unnecessary. I think it's government money. No, we're talking about a type of money, so government here is an adjective. So that means that government money should be used at this direction. No, at this direction is wrong. Maybe in this direction. I think what we're trying to do is avoid saying in this way, because we said in this way earlier in the essay. Should be used in this way as well. Should be spent. Should be used accordingly, we could say. According to what I've just said, accordingly. It's a good adverb that we can use here to shorten the sentence. That means that government money should be spent or should be used accordingly. Especially, a bit of repetition there. You don't want to keep using especially all the time, especially if it is to start a sentence, because it doesn't sound great. It's a bit confusing.
Madam, your children are no more than a pair of ill-bred troublemakers.
Lisa, too?
Especially Lisa, but especially Bert.
Especially cartoons that promote heroes with special needs or unconventional appearance will engage children with the idea that everyone in this world must be accepted and loved. Okay, yeah, no real problems with the sentence, but yeah, try to avoid especially. Maybe we could say moreover or something like that. In this way, as it was mentioned in the introduction, in this way, as mentioned in the introduction, TV will become a novel type of education and helpful for parents who do not have much time to spend with their kids, and will be helpful for parents who don't have much time to spend with their kids. However, as far as parents are concerned, their supervision is really important. Okay, very good sentence there to give the counterpoint. A medical university study has arrived to a conclusion, well, has come to the conclusion, maybe has arrived at the conclusion. You arrive at a conclusion, I suppose, or you come to a conclusion, has come to the conclusion, I would say, that spending extensive hours in front of TV, I could be wrong here. I don't think you can say extensive hours, because an hour is a very definite amount of time, so it's always 60 minutes. Spending too many hours, spending an excessive amount of hours in front of the TV is harmful for children. It can lead up to both physical and psychological health problems as kids are shielded. No, they're protected. They're shielded from the outside world. Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things here lead up to physical and psychological health problems. Lead up to means that something precedes another thing, which I understand if you look at the definition is sounds correct, but it doesn't mean that it causes it. So if you sit in front of the TV all day, that can cause physical and psychological health problems. So it can lead to both physical and psychological problems. Okay, so the conclusion. In conclusion, governments should concern that children programs. No, governments should not concern. Governments should be concerned that children programs are. So for once, we don't have the apostrophe S here. Here, children is a plural noun, so we can't use it as an adjective. So we would have to say children's programs with an apostrophe S this time, or child television, no, or something like that. But children's programs must be educative and diverting. Okay, so that's pretty good. If the above is achieved, I believe that the advantages of devoting a plausible amount of time to watching TV will overweigh any possible disadvantage. Okay, so a couple of problems here. I believe that the advantage of devoting a plausible amount of time. Now, plausible means like believable. I think what you mean here is a not excessive amount of time. So maybe a reasonable amount of time to watching TV will overweigh. No, I think we're getting confused with when you are too fat, you are overweight. No, will outweigh any possible disadvantage. Okay, let's see what I would give this. What score would this essay get in an exam? So let's have a look at the mark scheme then, and we can see that in the mark scheme, I'm just going to have a look at what you get for level 5, the comments you get for level 5, because this is a little bit ambiguous when you read all of this. Also, this is very subjective. This is just what I think you would get, more or less. So they judge you on 4 different things, on content, communicative achievement, organization, language. Okay, so content. All content is relevant to the task. The reader is fully informed. Okay, I think all of the content was relevant. I did have a bit of confusion as to whether it was an article or an essay. I'm not 100% which question, which task was being answered, which is a bit of a problem. The target reader was fully informed. Yeah, everything was... what you were saying was very clear, and it gave plenty of information about the topic. So I think I would go for a 3 there out of 5, just because I'm not 100% certain about whether everything was relevant or not. That was a bit of a problem. It seemed like it was an essay, and it didn't seem very clear that if it was an article that you were talking about the money that was being invested all the way through the task. So I think I'd go for a 3 there. Communicative achievement. So for a 5, it says that it demonstrates complete command of the conventions of the communicative task. So that means if it's an essay, you write it like an essay. If it's an article, you write it like an article. So again, in this case, I guess both are written in a formal style. So in that sense, yes, though it wasn't very clear whether it was an essay or an article. So again, I don't think I can give you full marks there. Communicates complex ideas in an effective and convincing way, holding the target reader's attention with ease, fulfilling communicative purposes. Yeah, I think we understood everything you wanted to say. It was pretty clear, pretty well written. I think you explained some fairly complex ideas in a way that was understandable. Again, there is that problem with what was being answered. So I think I'd go for a 3 out of 5 again there. So not full marks. Okay, text organized. So we've got the organization of the text here. Text is organized impressively and coherently using a wide range of cohesive devices and organizational patterns with complete flexibility. It was organized well. It was very clear that you were talking about one thing, then another thing, and there was an introduction and a conclusion. You moved from one topic to another pretty well. A couple of mistakes, perhaps, like I mentioned, especially. We used that twice. Also, using it to begin a sentence didn't sound great. So there was a couple of small errors that kind of made it a little bit less cohesive than it might have been. And organizational patterns with complete flexibility. Yeah. Again, very subjective. I think I would probably go. I think I would go for a 4 there. I'd say it was well organized. I think I'd go for a 4. Language uses a wide range of vocabulary. Yeah, definitely. There was good vocabulary in there. A few mistakes, but no, it was very good in terms of the vocabulary that was used, including less common lexis, yeah, words that are not so common. With fluency, yeah, it was pretty fluent. And that's what I mean. Even though there was mistakes, they didn't make it difficult to understand, which is very important. So there was definitely fluency. Precision, yeah, a few imprecise uses of certain words and expressions, but sophistication and style, yeah, there was definitely a good style to it. It was easy to read, and it was clear to see what your point of view was. Use of grammar is sophisticated, fully controlled, and completely natural. Yeah, again, natural, fully controlled. Yeah, there was a couple of small mistakes which I pointed out when I was correcting it. But the use of grammar was generally very good. There were some pretty complex sentences in there. No mistakes that impeded the understanding. So in that sense, yeah, pretty good. Any inaccuracies occur only as slips. So the inaccuracies were only like accidental mistakes. I think there was a couple that were to do with understanding or maybe just a misuse of an expression or a word. So I wouldn't say there were only slips. There were mistakes. No. So, but I think I would go for a 4 there. So I think I'd say 3 on content, 3 on communicative achievement, and 4 on organization and language. So you're probably somewhere between a 3 and a 4 there. I think. I'd like to hear other opinions, but I thought it was a pretty good essay. Yeah, well done.